Mhm.
Okay, so you were approached before Christmas by this doctor friend of yours, and he was giving you masks and hand sanitizer. And
Yes.
what did he suspect that this virus was at that time? This is a very important interview. I was approached by an elderly gentleman who's married to a Chinese woman who lives in the Guangdong province, who's recently been under scrutiny by national security because he was warned already before Christmas about the COVID-19, Wuhan flu, whatever you want to call it, virus by a doctor friend of his. And it's turned his life upside down. I'm not going to sit here and explain the whole thing. Let's get straight to the interview. Let's just talk about what brought you to China in the first place.
Well, maybe it's been almost 5 years ago. My wife had a grandmother who passed away,
Right.
and she had to come to be with the family. And during that time, her mother also let her know that she was sick, and her father's health had been getting worse. So I guess I kind of took it upon myself to say, well, let's just move there,
Right, right.
uh, so we could be closer to the family.
That makes
And
sense. Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah.
it was more of my choice because she really didn't want to come back, but I ended up talking her into us moving here, and I worked in a language center for just a few months to kind of learn the business, and then we decided to open our own.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, that's the natural path of succession, really, if you want to be
Yeah,
successful in China as a foreigner.
yeah,
No, that's fantastic. So you came back for your wife, and I understand how important Chinese family is. So I see you probably recognize that, and just went with your gut instinct, which is the correct thing to do. Um, Now, fast forward to our current situation. We all know it's very difficult all around the world right now. Everybody's kind of in lockdown or in some way affected by the COVID-19 coronavirus, Wuhan flu, whatever you want to call it. Um, how has this affected you? Like, when did you first hear about this? Because I think this is quite important. When did you first hear about this new flu?
I heard about it before Christmas. I had a doctor friend who worked at a local hospital, and um, said that there was something we needed to chat about, and came to my house, brought me some masks
Okay.
and some N95 masks, and he told me I needed to get extra hand sanitizer, but brought me some
Okay.
uh, because he had already been clued in through his friends what was happening. And so he already knew that eventually there would be a shortage of
Right.
supplies. So that's how I first found out about it.
Yeah,
So,
that's fascinating. That timeline doesn't add up to,
no,
the rest of the world and what's
no.
being said in the mainstream media. But my wife is a doctor, and so I also started to hear about this stuff, but a little later than you. And actually, before Li Wenliang died, when he first sent out his message to his colleagues and it kind of went viral, that's when I heard about it. I actually made a video about it a
Mhm.
day or two after I'd heard about it, before it got picked up. But I think this is very important that you found out about it already before Christmas. I mean,
Yes,
I had no clue that anything like this was going on back then. So it tells you that there was at least some sort of general knowledge going around, at least in
yes,
the medical circles there. That's fascinating.
yes. And he's looked at as, the hero to first discuss and
Hmm.
or uncover what was happening. But, of course, again, that timeline does not
No,
add up.
no.
So
I think he's
it's
just the first.
obvious it was known
Yeah,
before.
I think he was just the first guy to get caught, and they made a bit of
Yes.
a spectacle out of trying to silence him, making him sign the those papers of rumor mongering and stuff. And so he went into the spotlight. But as I now you've confirmed it to me because I 100% believe what you're saying. This was kind of common knowledge amongst the doctors before, Li
Yeah.
Wenliang came on the scene.
Mhm.
Okay, so you were approached before Christmas by this doctor friend of yours, and he was giving you masks and hand sanitizer. And
Yes.
what did he suspect that this virus was at that time?
Only thing that he knew was that it was something similar to a flu, is what he thought, and what he had been told. And his initial reaction was to say it was probably an outbreak of SARS again. So he thought that it was SARS returning, and
Right.
but at that point he didn't really have much information on what it was.
Okay. Now we discussed this a little before privately, and you mentioned that this led to something else because the doctor actually wanted you to help him get the word out. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. He continued sharing information as more came out, and after it turned into an epidemic initially with China, before it was considered a pandemic by the WHO. He was wanting me to discuss with anyone that I could to get out some of the information he had. He had documents which personally I couldn't read because I can't read Chinese. And I did not really want anything to do with it because I didn't want to put myself in any type of bad position.
I understand.
Yeah, but it was basically issues that they were having with how they were rationing out their protective gear at their hospital, but also internal documents telling how to label certain patients so that the number would not go up, or if the numbers needed to go up, so that it looks like they're being honest.
Yeah.
How to go about that. Basically, how to limit the cases to keep a steady number that looked somewhat believable and would keep people from panicking.
I understand. Now, you see, I obviously we're not going to disclose exactly which city you live in, but you do live in the Guangdong province, and
Yes.
I've been keeping a very close eye on the numbers, and the numbers in the city that you live in just don't make sense to me. They seemed incredibly low. What's your opinion on that?
I completely agree. The city that I live in has a lot of transients move through, and there is absolutely no way that those numbers could be correct. And there's also a lot of people from Wuhan that work here, that go back and forth visiting family. And the amount of people that before the lockdown was put in place that traveled back here from Wuhan, there is absolutely no way that those numbers could be true. It's just not possible.
Yeah, I agree. It just always kind of struck me as being very odd. In fact, I think everybody by this point realizes that the numbers are just numbers and they don't actually reflect reality at the moment in China. They've just been put out there, whatever's convenient to the narrative at the time. So this is what the doctor was basically telling you at the time. Yeah, okay, that's fantastic. I mean, it's like I said, I 100% believe you. But this led to something else happening to you, correct?
Yes. Unfortunately, I had been making quite a few calls abroad, and that led to me being investigated, wanting to know what the calls were for, who I was speaking with. So basically we ended up investigated, both my wife and myself. So we had people from national security interviewing us. Now, I personally don't understand completely how national security works in China. I don't know if they were coming from Beijing or if they were from offices within my own province. But either way, that tells me that it was high on the radar if it was national security and not just some local police.
Yeah, I understand just how scary that can be. We had an incident in Inner Mongolia where we were detained and interrogated by, a SWAT team busted into our hotel room, and we had the local party members and stuff come over. And one thing that we found shocking is this happened during conquering northern China. So my friend Seamilk was with me, and we could understand them in the hallway discussing all the details about us, and they knew everything about us, our wives' names, where we lived, where we worked, what supermarkets we shop at and stuff. They were saying all these things that we could hear because we can understand Chinese, and it was quite shocking as to the level of surveillance that we were kind of under, if you know what I mean, and the fact that they had all this information all the way on the other side of the country. So did you experience something similar with these guys?
Yes, it's similar with me, because even though I do not speak Chinese, my wife does, of course. She is Chinese. So when they would be speaking to each other, after the interrogation was finished, I was able to be told everything being said. And it was the same. They knew absolutely everything about my wife and I, everything about our life in America, my family in America, all of my work in America. So they knew everything about me, which was really surprising that they would know that much about both of us before coming here. Because I'm a pretty private person, and there's not a lot that you can really find out about me online.
Right.
I don't share a lot of information because I'm a person that doesn't like people to be able to find out anything and everything about me. So
it shows you they have their claws in all this. It's obviously got something to do with them tracking your wife as a national, and who she marries overseas, and where she works and all that kind of stuff. And I guess it all ties into you, obviously. It's scary. It's scary stuff.
Yeah, in the interview, they would ask a lot of the questions about our past, and as we were answering, they would correct us with dates, or or if we would give a year, they would give us the actual date. To let us know, we already know this information.
Now, you told me that you started to call the local consulate in Guangzhou, which is the capital city of Guangdong, and they picked up on that, didn't they?
Yes. So they've been very helpful the entire time as well. But yes,
not the national security.
Yes, the consulate. However, national security was able to know every time that I was contacting the U.S. consulate office, and would contact me after, questioning me about what was talked about, why did I contact them, and I was very honest and told them everything that I said. I said, well, you probably know anyway. So this is what I said. This is the reason I'm calling. And I think that, as a foreigner, I should be calling. And they told me not to. And I let them know that anytime I would have any type of interview or interrogation or contact, I would continue to call my government to let them know. So if something did happen to me, at least there's a record of everything that had followed beforehand.
That must have infuriated them.
Yes.
I mean, now the interesting thing that we discussed earlier is that they started to actually show you pictures, didn't they, and ask you who it was you were talking to in the consulate.
Yes. So before they showed me photos, they told me, I did tell them who the person was. I only knew their first name. And they said, well, we already know his last name. So that's fine. We already know. We just want you to admit it. I said, well, yes, but I did nothing wrong. I never made a contact about what information I had. So then they started sending photos. They showed up with a bunch of printed photos asking me, is this the person? Is that the person? And None of them were, and they were agitated that it seemed like they were agitated I would not pick one,
Right.
and would continue handing me the photos saying which one. And I said, none of these.
Yeah.
So then they had me single it out to the one that was most similar.
Right.
And I said, well, this one is the most similar. However, it's not the person. This is not who it is.
Right.
So that seemed to annoy them. But I wasn't going to point the finger at someone, and ruin
random...
someone's life.
Yeah. It's
Even if it was
crazy.
to protect myself, I would not do that.
So presumably the photos they were showing you were of the staff employed at the consulate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So they...
No. It was the doctors.
Sorry.
Doctors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, okay. So this is where I was confused, and that makes a lot more sense. So now what they're trying to do is they're trying to find out which doctor was the one who tipped you off in the first place.
Yes.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense. I mean, this is the timeline as far as I see it, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but what happened was, before Christmas, your doctor friend approached you and told you that there was something you better watch out for. Please be careful. Supplied you with N95 masks, hand sanitizer, and then later asked you if you could help him spread the word to Western media. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Then you get investigated by the sort of Beijing security, national security. We don't know if it's directly from Beijing or locally. You get investigated by them, and they try to get you to finger the person who gave you this information in the first place.
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and there's been 3 occasions where they have shown me multiple photos asking me to pick which one it is, and every time I'm honest because none of them have been the person.
Well, that's good. I mean, I mean, it's good that you're not put in a position where you actually see or recognize the person, but it's good that you're not telling them who it is, because that poor doctor's fate is probably sealed by that point.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to just point a finger at someone just because they want me to, when it's not the person I know.
Yeah, makes total sense.
And when all of this happened, I deleted my friend from all of my social media, and I haven't spoken to him since that time, because I knew that if he was asking me, he was also probably asking other people, and I did not want involved in that.
I understand. It's completely life destroying to be tied to something like that. And especially the way the communist government works over there is they usually go after family in order to intimidate, and it upsets everything. And especially if you're married to a Chinese woman, her family will be in danger, which is the absolute worst case scenario. But they always do that. They went after my wife when I started to make videos saying, "Oh, the pollution's a bit bad" or something. They just it's an awful situation. So I understand why. And also a lot of people that I know who've been investigated by police or stopped by police or whatever, they get their phones taken and gone through. And of course, programs like WeChat and so on, the government demands that the companies like Tencent give them full access. So even if it's password protected or locked or encrypted or whatever, Tencent has to allow the government to be able to read all your messages, listen to all of your voicemails, everything. So once they've got your phone, I mean, they do a lot of that stuff remotely anyway, but once they've got your phone, they can go through your entire history and read and listen to everything. So you deleting your doctor contact from all your social media was at least a step in the right direction to protect both yourself and his identity.
Yes, and they did look at my phone. They never took it from me.
Okay.
They never took it from me permanently, but they did take my phone during a meeting and go through all of my contacts. And they went into to see if I had commented on anything that he had posted, or he had commented on my posts. And it was something that, well, he's deleted. There's
no comments.
he's not. There are no comments. He was no longer on my phone. So they went through all of the contacts in my phone to make sure, and then they gave it back to me.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, well, I mean that's scary and everything. Now, another thing that you mentioned, which is also a bit scary, is apparently some other foreigners in your neighborhood were also questioned about you as well by the security. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. There's two foreigners in my community that have also both been questioned about me, how they know me,
Hmm.
uh, how long they've known me, what they know about me, what type of things do we talk about, how often do we hang out, just general questioning. You know.
Right. So from what I understand, then is they're just trying to find out if you have shared this information about this doctor and
Yes.
all of that to anyone, and how widespread it's gotten. Well, I got a surprise for them now because now, um, however many people watch this video, or as many people are going to know about this.
Yeah.
So their efforts are in vain.
Yeah. And contacting my friends,
Hmm.
that put me in an awkward situation because I had not discussed this with them,
Right.
um,
Right.
because I didn't want to involve anyone
Yeah.
in
Smart.
this.
Mm.
So I have not discussed this with any of my Chinese friends, with any of my foreign friends, no
Mm.
one,
Right.
because I didn't want this to become an issue for them
Yeah.
if something happened.
Yeah.
And then especially after being interviewed, the first time, even more so, I did not want to share this with anyone,
Yeah.
um, because I just didn't want to involve them in any type of drama or legal issues.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we both know how China operates.
Yeah, absolutely. It's terrible. This sort of ham-fisted way that they've gone around doing this. They've actually done themselves a disservice,
Yeah,
because they stoop so low and they so in your face and so obnoxious about it that it actually made you reach out and talk to me. Which is if I think
yeah,
if they'd just been civil and not
yeah.
tried all these intimidation tactics against you and your wife, you probably wouldn't have bothered. You would have just
No,
carried on with life, right?
exactly. I would not have said or reached out to, anyone
Yeah.
because there was no reason to.
Yeah.
I did the right thing by keeping my mouth shut for
Right.
self-preservation. And then once interviewed, I told the truth
Yeah.
and was completely honest.
Yeah.
They already have my information. I know they can easily look at anything in WeChat,
Yeah.
be able to get into all of my history and know that I was being honest. So at that point, there's no reason to try to intimidate someone.
Yeah.
If you know already they're telling you the truth, there's no reason to intimidate.
Yeah. I
You know,
agree.
so that causes someone to want to reach out.
Yes. I
In
agree.
case something does happen to them in the future, there should be their side of the story recorded
Yeah.
or told, or someone that knows.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least from my point of view, we've had a lengthy chat, and of course we have this video, but I at least know your side of the story, and I'm ready to do whatever it takes to help you out in any situation that might arise. And look, the reason for all the viewers out there who are watching this, the reason why his voice is disguised, his location, and everything is because he's in a terribly precarious situation at the moment, and so it's very important that his identity doesn't get leaked. And we're just going to have to play it by ear and see how things go. Of course, I wish you 100% the best. I know that you are making your plans to escape, so to speak.
Yes,
And
yes, I am.
once you have successfully managed to do that, I would love to meet you in person, and hopefully we can, all celebrate your successful escape from this horrible situation.
Well, that is my hope, definitely.
Fantastic.
I'm looking forward to that day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, me too. Listen, is there anything else you'd like to tell everybody? Because we could continue to go into this into detail, but I think everybody understands exactly what's happened in this situation. It's a very important message that you're now sharing with everyone, and it shows exactly how the Chinese government has been approaching this entire situation, on not just a macro level, but just across the board. So, is there anything you'd like to add before we sort of finish off today?
I think two things. First, it would be to the American viewers, which is people in the U.S. need to stop pointing fingers at each other and work through this together. As I watch the news, it's quite saddening to see how people are taking sides with this. It's a virus. It does not discriminate. It doesn't care if it's killing someone on the right or left. So I would definitely, to my American viewers, say to those few who are picking sides, luckily it is a few, but to those few, take this seriously and protect yourself. And the other note that I would make is to foreigners who are in China or planning to come to China in the future. I knew what I was getting into when I came here. I know how the government works. That's why my wife left in the first place. That's why she came to America. So I knew what I was coming into. China can be a wonderful place, and China has a lot of wonderful people too. However, as you've said in many videos in the past, and as I try to remind some of my friends here, people can have these rose-colored glasses on and think everything is perfect, everything in society is great, they're getting so much attention, everything in their life is working out, until it doesn't.
Yes.
And suddenly reality hits. Suddenly they realize that freedom that they thought they were having is not real.
Yeah.
As soon as you step on the wrong toe, everything comes quickly. And so I'm not trying to say don't come or get out. I'm just saying be careful and be prepared for something like this.
Yeah, and realize where you are. I think a lot of people don't. So many people that foreigners just chilling out, smoking weed, and doing what they think they do back home, not realizing that they're in a place where if they get caught, and if someone actually really wants to point at them and say, "Hey, that guy was smoking weed in public," they can go to jail. They can get deported.
Yeah. Their life can be over in a split second.
Exactly. I mean, I'm just using that as an example, but you understand what I'm saying. You fully understand what I'm saying now that you've been properly hit by this, and that's why I seriously appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with everyone. I think it's an incredibly brave thing to do, and the entire point of my channel is to help people understand China. And the more we understand China, the more we know how to navigate living there or navigate dealing with China in the correct way. Because if we can avoid these pitfalls and see it for what it is, then we can actually engage with China in a positive way, in a way that doesn't end up hurting us terribly, or China,
Yeah, that's the outcome that everyone should want in the
Absolutely.
end. Definitely.
Listen, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on, and we'll be keeping in touch with you. For all the viewers back home, if there are any changes in what's going on, trust me, you'll be the first to know. So thank you so much, and I'll chat to you soon again.
All right, thank you.
All right. Okay. Stay awesome.